This is the biggest wow in my life, that's for sure. It's just incredible. I'm just overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. I'm just overwhelmed. Thank you so much, everyone, for your kind and generous remarks. I'm truly humbled by what you shared. I'm not sure I deserve all those accolades, that's for sure. But hearing from so many wonderful people, the governor, the cardinal, I mean, I can't believe what's happened here tonight. The emotions I'm feeling are quite dramatic. Joy to be with all of you here tonight. Awe at the magnitude of the occasion, and humility, certainly, a sense of accomplishment, and so many other kinds of emotions. You know what I feel like? I got to tell you this. What I really feel like is a young kid going to Disney World for the first time. For me, it's truly a magical moment, and it makes me wish that 5 more people could be here with us tonight. As Billy said, my mom and my dad, Joan's mom and dad, and somebody I truly love a great deal, my brother Jim, who couldn't be here with us tonight. What a celebration. I've got to tell you that if I knew this was going to happen, I would have retired a long time ago. This is great. I mean, it's a hell of a lot of fun, that's for sure. As most of you know, my career was spent mostly in the banking world. I had the good fortune to work with amazing people, headed up a workforce of over 6,000 people, leading the Westchester County Association for the last 15 years. Has been by far the most rewarding thing of my entire life. I've gotten to work with some really wonderful people, and hopefully I've made some difference in the community that I really, truly love. I truly believe that all my life lessons and values have prepared me for this role. And tonight, I'm going to shortcut it a little bit because the governor said a lot of things that I was going to say. And so I'm going to share some things that you know about me, but some things you don't know about me and how they've led me to be standing here. As I look back on so many turning points in my life, it becomes clear they've all contributed to the core of my being. For the time I was a young child, some of you know I was profoundly deaf. In fact, my hearing was only about 10% of what most people can hear. At that early age, I really didn't understand I was deaf. I didn't know what a clue. I always remember the nun in the 3rd grade saying, if you can't hear, stand up. And I looked around the room and I said, there's no way in hell I'm standing up, that's for sure. And obviously my pronunciation became a real issue, and people used to laugh at the fact that I couldn't pronounce words. They actually thought I was a practical joker about a lot of things. But once I got what it meant, clearly God blessed me by helping me not to look back at it as a negative about this or an obstacle, but as a real gift. In many ways, it actually helped me to become who I am today. It gave me the freedom to live without the boundaries that a lot of people have to live within. I never heard half of the things that were going on. And it was like a movie. And I think most of you know, I just kind of said what was on my mind most of the time, and because I really didn't get it. I also had to concentrate a little bit harder in school and at work. And because I learned how to read lips, it taught me how to pay attention to people's body language, just not what they were saying, which frankly, how to read a room has really given me a big edge. And when I was in the banking world and I was negotiating a deal with somebody, they always used to say, well, Bill looks right in your eyes. I was never looking in your eyes, I was looking at your lips. And otherwise I couldn't survive. And the biggest thing I've learned in that process, I learned how to say huh about 50 different ways. In addition to learning how to overcome obstacles, I began to appreciate the rewards of determination. For the time I was little, I loved to play baseball. When I was in the 6th grade, this is kind of interesting, I approached the priest from our parish, and I said, Father, I'd really like to start a baseball team here. I think it would be a lot of fun. And whatever the reasons were, he said, no, we can't do that. There was probably a lot of issues in economics in those days. So I went home and I wrote a letter to the Archdiocese of New York petitioning for their permission to create a baseball team. And they wrote back to me and they said, if I could get a coach, excuse me, they'd be willing to do it. Fortunately, my neighbor was willing to take on the job, and we got to play ball. And at that point in time, as it turns out, I was a lobbyist before I even knew what the hell the word meant. So sometimes I look back and I wonder how, as a 6th grader, I was bold enough to approach the parish priest with the idea of forming a baseball team, and then I had the audacity to go over his head to the cardinal and ask to have a team. So another life lesson that has served me so well throughout my entire life is to never compromise when chasing your dreams. That doesn't mean you don't compromise, but when you're chasing your dreams, you don't compromise. And like many young boys, I dreamed of becoming a professional baseball player. In fact, on my high school graduation, and my guidance counselor, I should say, asked me what I wanted to do in life. I said I wanted to become a Major League Baseball player. And he said, get real, will you, Bill? That's never going to happen, which made me want it even more. And amazingly, I did have a couple of shots playing ball. I was elected to be part of the United States All-Star team in 1957. And that same year, my senior year in high school, I was invited to work out with the Dodgers, and I spent an afternoon at Ebbets Field. Now, you got to picture this, right? Here I am, 17 years old, standing along Duke Snyder, Junior Gilliam, Carl Ferrello, Billy Cox, all names that some people in the audience might remember, but others won't. But it was such an incredible day for me. And incredibly, the next day, I got a call from the Yankees. And Stuffy Stern was, if you remember that name, and he asked me to come down and work out with them. But in one of life's twists of fate, at that very day, my father lost his job. And he came home and he said to me, you've got to find a job to support the family. So I never got to work out with the Yankees. Instead, I got on a subway, and I took it to Lexington Avenue, 42nd Street, and it was a big Citibank's sign out that said, help wanted, and I applied, and I got the job as a messenger, and I was happy as a pig, and you know what, and it was just great. Now, I think I was getting $21 or $23 a week, and I thought that was fabulous. I could go out with Joan on a Friday night, we'd get a pizza, go to movies, and I still had a lot of money left over. Now, you probably think that a young man at that age would be devastated that I missed the opportunity to try out for the Yankees when I took that job. But I got to be honest about it. I never looked back. I don't think I thought about it for more than a minute, that's for sure. And the reason is my parents installed fundamental values to me. If your family needs help, you do whatever you can help to do and help them, and you don't think twice about it. So it was, frankly, goodbye baseball and hello banking. So 2 years into my job at Citibank, I'm a low-level clerk at this point, and these 3 guys come walking in this room where I was working. They looked kind of like this, and I didn't know anything like that. I didn't even have a jacket in those days. So my father made my pants and things like that, and certainly didn't have a jacket. And these guys came walking in all spruced up and looking handsome and smartly dressed. And because I always kind of was a little bit outspoken about things, I went over to them and I said, how do I get to look like you guys? How does that happen? And luckily for me, a guy by the name of Samuel B. Hayes III, who went to Yale, took me under his wing. He took me out to lunch and taught me what all those pieces of silverware were for. And then he took me, this is actually incredible, he took me out to Brooks Brothers, bought me a suit, told me how to buy shoes, and I always remember he said, Bill, you want to be somebody in this bank, you got to wear high socks up to your knees. And then he took me over to the New York Athletic Club, and he taught me how to network with people. Ultimately, Sam got me a job, and by the way, Sam went on to become the head of Australia for Citibank, and ultimately became a professor at Harvard. He was quite a guy. Sam got me a job as the number 2 guy in a little bank in Nyack called the Tappan Zee National Bank. And he got them to give me the greatest gift of all, an academic scholarship at Manhattan College, so I didn't have to pay for college. So what did Sam really give to me? He gave me his time. He gave me his wisdom. He gave me his support. And he gave me his mentorship. And because of that, I truly realized the value and the importance of mentorship and personal relationships. And frankly, from that day on, I've always strived to be the Sam in somebody else's life. In an ironic twist of faith, Sam gave me the opportunity of a lifetime to really understand what it means to advocate for the greater good and make a difference in people's lives. I've never talked about what I'm about to talk about publicly ever, and I hope you bear with me as I go through this. Paul Adler, who's here, will probably remember this well. But not long after I started at the Tappan Zee National Bank, tragedy struck. I was driving to work when I heard on the radio there was a school bus collision with a train. Several children were killed, and many others were injured. That was clearly extraordinarily devastating, to say the least. Shortly after the accident, within hours actually, a local man approached me and said, "Bill, we got to do something to help these families." That man's action inspired me to start and lead a campaign to raise and distribute a large amount of money from people all across the country to help those families pay for their funeral expenses and medical bills. I remember in those days, insurance was not, a lot of people didn't have insurance. I personally received over 3,000 letters and donations from across the country, including a heartfelt donation of 69 cents from a group of school kids in Tennessee. To meet with those families and go through the process, to go to the funerals, to talk to them day in and day out for maybe a couple of years was probably one of the greatest things that ever happened to me in my life, to be able to help those people and go through that whole process. Shortly after that, Little Bank was taken over by one of the largest banks in the country. And a vice president from that company told me I had to start doing charitable fundraising in the community because there was too much risk and liability for the bank if something went wrong. You got to remember this is a lot of years ago. And I told him that helping the community in its time of need was far more important than any concerns about liability. And I added, if that's how you feel about the culture, and if that's the culture of a bank, frankly, I don't want any part of it, and I quit. Billy, you know me. And he said to me, oh, if you feel that way, and we went through a whole thing. And anyway, we all worked it out, and I continued clearly. But at that moment, what I really realized was when you're really advocating for something you believe in, you should stand up for it, no matter how difficult the consequences are or the circumstances. It was an extremely emotional time, to say the least, but one of the most rewarding things in my entire life. Through that experience, I learned that leadership is not about your title. It's not about compliance. It's not about liability, corporate liability. It's about inspiring the people around you to work together towards a common goal and advocating what you believe is right. You know, tonight, as I think about all the people over the course of my life and my career who have helped me to achieve things I never knew were possible, I might add, I have to single out one person who has been by far the greatest blessing of my life, and it's not hard to figure out who that is, right? I fell in love with my wife, Joan, when I was 16 years old, and she was 15, and we've been together ever since. And for that, I'm extraordinarily fortunate. Joan, would you mind coming up here, if you don't mind, with me, please? I get all the accolades, but this is the real deal, that's for sure. I think most of you know that Joan's a pretty spiritual person, and no matter what mistakes I've made over the course of my life, and I've made a carload of them, that's for sure, and I can honestly say this and look you in the eye, Joan has never, ever said an unkind word to me. That's incredible when you think about it. And I don't think, and this is her greatest trait in my judgment, I've never heard her pass judgment on anyone else either. And I remember when her father passed away, and I said to her, what is the greatest thing you respect and admire most about your dad? And she turned around and she said to me, he never passed judgment on anybody, and that's Joan. So being around Joan has made me a real better person. She's my motivation, and she's my inspiration, that's for sure. And then having amazing children with the person who you love and adore, and each of whom become such extraordinarily human beings themselves, is an incredible source of inspiration. And Joan, I could not be prouder or more proud of each of our children and their amazing spouses. Billy and Dan, Beth Ann and Jim, Susan and Chris, Tommy and Judy, and Fred and Dawn. Each of them are loving, caring people who make a real difference in their lives. We're so proud. The governor said 9 grandchildren. We have 9 grandchildren, but he didn't mention the fact that we have 3 great-grandchildren too, by the way. And so we are fortunate and clearly blessed. I think you heard it enough tonight. Everything about our lives is about family, and it means everything to the both of us. It's the love and support of Joan and my family, along with all of these experiences that I shared tonight, from the time I was a young child getting that baseball team started to the moments I was in banking, the banking industry, that gave me the foundation to envision a new direction for the WCA when I joined as CEO and president 15 years ago. So what did I learn? What did I really learn? Overcome obstacles. They're all around us. And if we don't learn how to overcome obstacles, we're not going to get there. And be determined. Be determined about what you want to do. And obviously, stick to your core values. Mentor others. Such a big deal. You have no idea what it means to a young person just starting out in life, just starting a new job, what it means to help them succeed going through. It's easy to point out mistakes, but our role, and most of the people in this room are leaders, is to help them get through those steps and advocate for what you believe is right. That culminated in my role at the WCA. It's such an honor to lead an organization where we could find important ways to fight for important causes and make a real difference in the lives of people who work in this region, that's for sure. You heard a lot about that tonight. And I've been so blessed with the staff and taking on some pretty big challenges. So I want to say thank you to Amy and Julia, Christina, Jason, Kathy, Michael, and John. They have really done a fabulous job for us all. And thank you especially to Amy and Julia, because they've been with me for almost 15 years. I love you guys. I love all of you, that's for sure. I also want to thank our great chairman, Bill Harrington. And Billy's always had my back, because I stick my neck out much too much sometimes, and he pulls it back and gives me the support that I need. And the board has been fantastic, so I thank them for what they've done too. I've been grateful for so many gifts and to meet so many extraordinary people through this whole process. For me, it's always by living the core values I've touched upon earlier: the family, faith, integrity, community, and living by the golden rule, as a bunch of you have said, and doing unto others as you would really want done to you. My time as president and CEO of the WCA is coming to a close. My passion for and commitment to this organization and the people who support it are stronger than ever. So all of us have to work together to take that passion and commitment and take the WCA to new heights. I'm reading this more than I normally do because if I didn't do that, my emotions would get the best of me. So there's a lot of work to be done. No matter what the challenges, circumstances, every one of us can and should find a way to make a difference. What we think about and know about what's going on in this world today, if every one of us tried to make a difference in a softer way, an inclusion way, and listen to and respect the views of others, I think we find ourselves with a better world. So I think I'll leave it at that. What do you think? And I think what we ought to do is what? Go have a few pops.
Great. Great. Really good. Can we leave that there?
Thank you. I just want to say thanks to everybody who was part of this, everybody who put this all together. And I want to thank the committee and everybody else and the governor and the cardinal, et cetera, et cetera. So God bless you all. And thank you from the bottom of my heart to have been of service to you. Thank you.
Bill Mooney. Mr. Mooney, congratulations just feels inadequate. Simply put, you are a legend, and it has been such a special experience to witness a celebration worthy of all of your accomplishments. And to be honest, any journalist who's worth their salt would have said yes to the invitation of standing here. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for including me and my family in such a beautiful tribute. I have never witnessed a tribute like this one. And thank you all for being here, a part of it. And now it's my turn to say, let's go have some pops. The celebration continues upstairs. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
And